Hi out there in YouTube land. I wanted to do a quick video about a little safety trick that I use in ritual, something that I think about, and it has to do with using all 4 elements in ritual. And by using those 4 elements, you can provide not only an energetically balanced ritual, but also a physically safe ritual. So I'm about to do a few videos coming up about different types of fire magic, and I'm going to be talking about using flash paper and smokeless fire and some other little odds and ends with regards to fire magic. And so I just wanted to do this little video talking about particularly fire safety and using the 4 elements as a balancer for fire. So here's what I mean by that. If I'm working with fire and I'm using fire magic, I turn to my other elements and they can provide the balance for that fire energy, that physical balance for that fire energy. So I turn to my cauldron, and I know that typically cauldrons don't represent air, but in this instance I use my cauldron to represent air, particularly my cauldron's lid, because I can use this lid to tamp out a fire, and by depriving it of air, so by controlling that air energy, I've put out my candle flame. Now, if you don't have a cauldron with a lid, you can use a pot lid, so go down to the kitchen and go down to your pots and pans and get a lid and just keep it up in your ritual space. And if you're burning something, or if you're, burning paper or whatever, and you don't want it burning any longer, you can use a pot lid or a pan lid, or in my instance I use my cauldron lid to deprive that flame of air, and by controlling the element of air I provide balance to my fire. Okay, so that's using air energy to provide balance to fire energy. I also keep a lot of water on hand in my ritual space. I don't know if you can hear that shaking. But this has water in it. There's all kinds of water back here. And then also I keep larger size containers of water in other places in my ritual space. It has a little blessing stone in it. So I keep water on hand. We often think of water when we're going to extinguish flame. But I do want to point out that if you have a heavily anointed candle, like if you've used a lot of oil to anoint this candle, it may not necessarily go out. That oil could catch fire, and water's not going to cut it, because in that instance, that fire is going to be like a grease fire. So don't always count on your water. Because if you're using oils, or if you're using like a tallow candle and the tallow material catches, that could constitute a grease fire too if you're working with an oil candle or an oil lamp. So have your water on hand. It's definitely useful, particularly if you're burning things, to kind of quench that fire. But like burning offerings and stuff, it helps to quench that. But don't always count on your water to be able to put the fire out. Lastly, having said that, I always keep this great big jar of salt on my altar. And the salt represents earth. And I don't just use my salt for ritual purposes, but you can use salt to put out flame. Let me show you. Oops, didn't do it fast enough. I was trying to be dramatic. There you go. Ah. There we go. So you can use salt to put out flame, and you can also use salt, like I could take this, if there was something that was seriously on fire, I could take this whole thing and pour it out, and that would put out a bigger flame. And you can use salt to extinguish grease fires and oil fires. So if you turn to earth, you also can provide balance for your fire energy. Now, last but not least, ultimate in fire magic safety is a fire extinguisher. And I like to think of my fire extinguisher as my spirit energy because, you know, when the deities move the human brain to come up with a good idea, that's spirit. And fire extinguishers are a good idea. So I keep this little kitchen one in my ritual space. Hopefully I'll never have to use it. I do replace it every couple of years because fire extinguishers do have a lifespan. It was not very expensive. I think it was all of $8. Picked it up at Target and totally worth the investment. I keep it here, keep it on hand, and it's there in case I was to need it. So definitely keep a fire extinguisher if you're going to be working with, even if you're just working with candles, keep it around. You know, you never know, and it's better to be safe than sorry. So that's my video on using the elements as a balancer, particularly for fire energy. And if you've made it to the end of this video, you deserve a little treat. I will show you a little magic trick. So, here's my flame, and if I extinguish it, see how I have that nice little poof of smoke? Oops, I did it too slow. I have to do it again. Okay, I'll extinguish it with the salt. I'll get a better. I'm shaking out the match. That's what that shaking was about. Let me extinguish this with the salt, and then you'll see. So, come on, salt, do your thing. All right, so there's my poof of smoke. I can light that poof of smoke, and it'll light my fire. Ah! Of course, it's not going to do it when I'm trying to show all of you out there in YouTube land. Let me try it one more time. Magic trick for those of you who are still hanging in there. Let me let it get going a little bit. I'll get my match going too. Okay, here we go. And there's my smoke. Light the smoke, and did you see it? It went back in. I'll show you again. Smoke. Light my smoke. Oh, it didn't do it this time. But you guys saw it that one time, right? You can't rely on it, but it's really cool when it happens. Let me see if I can get it going one more time. Get my match going. Blow it out. Light the smoke. Oh, and it goes back in. Did you see? Cool, huh? So, anyway, you can use your elements as physical balancers to fire, and you can light the smoke of an extinguished fire and relight the flame. Also, don't forget your fire extinguishers. Folks, I hope all that made sense, and I'm glad that I had an opportunity to share it, and hope you have a wonderful evening. Blessed be.